What's up, Fort Worth family? It's FortWorthFabian, BigBossFabo back with a reaction for the channel, man. I'm actually doing a reaction to Explore With Us, back with the documentary style reaction. So in today's true crime documentary, we're covering the case of Ana Trujillo, the craziest suspect ever interrogated. Now this is an Explore With Us reaction. I do have an Explore With Us playlist, right? So be sure to check out all the videos and all the content within that Explore With Us playlist. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit notification bell, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, FortWorthFabian. It's the road to 1 million subscribers, man. If you have additional recommendations for criminology content, interrogation room content like this, man, drop it down in the comment section down below. I'm trying to do more long form content like this, so if you have specific recommendations, comment down below. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, check out the playlist page where you can get familiarized with all the different forms of content I drop on the page, man. Got a whole library of reactions, so go check them out. So man, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right in. Explore With Us be having them bangers though.
Okay, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Can you stop crying for a minute and talk to me?
You're possessed. Just the way you act, you know? And he agreed. Like, yeah, I do feel like I have two horns coming out. I feel like I have the devil in me. And he, you know, it's like he was growing, like, demon. And his face got red.
In the early hours of June 9th, 2013, dispatchers received a chilling and nearly incomprehensible 911 call.
Well, you need medical, police, or fire.
Please, I need help.
Okay, ma'am. Hello.
Involves someone with mental illness. So as we can see, mental problems, right? Mental issues. What's going on here with the screen, gang?
Give it up. Wow.
Okay, you're gonna have to stop crying for or calm down so I can understand what you're saying. Your name?
Ana. I'm really mad.
And what did your boyfriend do?
I started talking, man. I was just trying to. He started beating me hard. You know.
Is he there now?
Yeah, but he's out. I don't know. Listen, he's about to die. He's not breathing. He says, I need you here right now. And
I'm trying to get someone out to you, ma'am. Are there any weapons involved?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
It's just me and him. He just drinks a lot. He just attacked me.
Bruh,
He's about
her
to
voice
die.
sounded annoying.
I've been resisting him, and I couldn't find the phone.
It's hard to
Somebody
listen to.
called me.
Okay, so is he beating you up or is he about to die?
Yeah, he's beating me up in the
The following never-before-seen footage has been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed attorney and former criminal prosecutor, a licensed clinical psychologist, and a former licensed professional counselor. The Park Lane is a high-rise set of luxury apartments located in Houston, Texas. As officers arrived on the scene, they could hear the sound of a woman weeping within apartment 18B. At their knock, the door opened to reveal 44-year-old Ana Trujillo. As the doorway's foyer faced a wall, the officer didn't have an immediate view of what lay inside. However, upon entering, he was greeted by an unforgettable scene. Ahead of him, beyond a set of luggage and suitcases, was an adjoining hallway. Lying in that hallway was the body of a man. The carpet by his head saturated a deep crimson. He didn't appear to be breathing. Cuts, bruises, and other abrasions were evident on his neck, torso, and arms. Yet the most unusual detail may have been the single size 9 blue suede stiletto left shoe resting near his head, adorned with blood and strands of sandy hair. The body matched the description on the man's identification card, revealing that he was 59-year-old Alf Stephen Anderson, a highly skilled research professor and biochemist at the University of Houston's Center for...
All right, y'all. For some reason, this is giving me Snapped vibes. I swear I had seen an episode similar to the context they're giving right now of a woman who had killed her significant other with the heel. I mean, that may be common, you know, at the butt of the heel, of her heel. So, I don't know. The story's got a lot of similarities. I don't know. Y'all be watching Snapped? Let me know.
For nuclear receptors and cell signaling. When asked what had happened, Ana seemed dazed, but finally told officers, "He was holding me and wouldn't let go." She claimed they had been arguing, but how had a simple argument reached such a fatal conclusion? Investigators knew there must be more to the story. The responding officers had Anna sit against the wall out of the way as they began to survey the scene. What they discovered there tips the scales of the bizarre, setting this case apart from others while sparking a media sensation.
Getting an LLC
They
for
said
your
it don't
business
add up,
doesn't
man.
have to look like
Hey, be
this.
sure to
Just
like the
Google
video,
LLC
like, comment,
Taylor Brands.
subscribe,
It's totally
notification
easy.
bell.
You pick a
The officers discovered a collage, presumably an homage to the professor from friends and colleagues upon the occasion of his birthday. Ironically, for reasons you'll find out later, near the center of the frame is a page that reads "Shoe Fetish," with an arrow pointing to a picture of a woman's shoe. Other cutouts of women's shoes are prominent, many featuring stiletto heels. In the hallway, within the general area of the body, a men's
Strange.
pair of shoes had been placed against the wall, and next to them was the stiletto's clean twin. Moving to the living room, detectives found a new set of mysteries. On the floor in front of the sofa was a wad of hair, seemingly a match to Stefan. 2 additional clumps rested upon the couch itself. On one end of the sofa was Anna's purse. Within it was an ominous omen. A tarot card book, open to the page describing the card representing death. Stuck to the corner of the book was a sugar packet, possibly corresponding to the white granules sprinkled across the glass coffee table, which was littered with a set of mysterious handwritten notes, one of which was signed Anna. One note reads, "May the shield of truth protect you. May the sword of justice judge. Let the pen be mightier than the sword." Another says, "I ask for you and your spirit and soul to be at peace, your mind calm, your heart pure strength." Detectives cuffed Anna and led her outside to photograph her to create a visual account of evidence, such as her clothing, bloodstains, and any injuries she may have sustained. While she exhibited bruising in places, she didn't complain of any pain or injuries except for her knee. But as this was under her clothing, there was little that investigators could do to explore this issue at that time. When this process was complete, they loaded Anna into a police cruiser and set off for the station. Detectives had a lot of questions that needed answers. Was this a case of self-defense or cold-blooded murder?
Sounds about
As
right.
she was the only witness able to provide a first-hand account of the events, they knew that Anna's dazed mind held the knowledge
got
that
her
would
all
prove
on
key to
camera, though.
understanding the tragic death of Stefan Anderson. However, they were rendered speechless by the wild and twisted narrative of Anna Trujillo, aka Anna Fox. This is 44-year-old Anna Trujillo, recognized by locals as the host of her own community access television show, and now as a suspect in the death of Stefan Anderson. As she awaits the detectives, she sits in a slouched position with her head down, hands resting between her legs in a protective gesture. She begins to move her legs, which is a release for nervous energy.
Here you go, Anna.
So it's a release for nervous energy. Bruh, I be doing that all the time. I didn't even know that's what it was. Damn. So I be nervous? Golly.
Anna
weird,
barely
though.
looks up at the sergeant. This is unusual behavior, as most people make eye contact with people as they enter a room. The sergeant leaves for a short time, returning with Detective Evans to
Y'all
start
see
the
that?
room.
She tried to open the bottle upside down, y'all.
Anna barely looks
Look.
up at the sergeant.
Like, what is you doing, my G? She said,
This is
playing psychotic? You know, some people can run with this narrative. It's a quick way to get sent to the madhouse. You don't got to do prison. You ain't got to do fed time. You know what I'm saying?
unusual behavior, as most people make eye contact with people as they enter a room. The sergeant leaves for a short time, returning with Detective Evans to start the interrogation.
All right, Anna. Remember me? I'm Brian Evans with HPD on the side.
The detectives have Anna's chair facing away from the table, so there are no barriers to prevent them from observing her entire body. Nonverbal communication can be very useful, and the absence of any barriers has the benefit of making a suspect feel exposed and ill at ease. The atmosphere is stark, with no distractions, to enhance the feeling of an unwelcome environment. The goal is to make the suspect feel uneasy, as it makes them dependent on comforting factors only the interrogator can provide them, such as food, water, cigarettes, and compliments. The interrogator wants as much leverage over the suspect as possible.
What we wanted to do was meet with you in hopes
Psychological,
of getting
baby.
your side of what happened last night. there, and we need to try to, for our understanding, if you could and would explain your relationship to Stefan.
Detective Evans leans forward to meet her at her level. This may be an attempt to appear less intimidating. He asks about her relationship with Stefan to get her talking, but also to establish a baseline for her speech, cadence, tone, body language, and mannerisms so they have a basis for comparison when they reach more sensitive topics.
We went out, and he really liked me, and from the beginning, he was very nice, and he said he liked me, and we started seeing each other, and he asked me to move in, and he asked me to marry him.
In a short span, she has repeated he really liked me twice. It may be important for Anna to make it known that she's well-liked, indicating that she enjoys being the center of attention and may exhibit narcissistic traits. On the other hand, Anna may want to make it known that Stefan really liked her in order to make herself appear innocent.
Damn, so basically if you really talk about yourself a lot and you talk about self-praise and self-love, you're slightly narcissistic. No cap. You really narcissistic, bruh. You really need to watch yourself.
As she's trying to make it sound like there were no issues or hostility between them.
He wanted to marry me, and I said, I think that we should live together first. So he agreed. And so he asked me to move in with him, and I did. And ever since then, I've been staying with him.
If this is true, it had to be a recent development, as the Park Lane apartment registry only listed Anna as a guest for June 8th and 9th. What this means is that they likely only recently moved in together, or hadn't been living together long, which is why she was still only listed as a guest. This detail could cast some doubt on Anna's claims about the seriousness of their relationship. For the next 30 minutes, Anna talks nonstop about a whole series of relationships in which she paints herself as a hard-working, blind-sided victim who eventually decides to escape the abuse before going into a new relationship and beginning the cycle anew.
He pushed me, he hit me against the wall, and I cried. I begged him. I tried everything. And he took me, and he slammed me. I met my boyfriend, and then so he knew the story and everything, and he said he would take care of me. And then he became physical because I wanted to leave, and he's 6'6". You know, what can I do?
She portrays herself quite positively while
you see how they was montaging it? They was basically like cutting like, damn, she's been talking for hours, ladies and gentlemen.
depicting her partners as being flawed.
I did it all. I was a wife, I had a career, I took care of my girls, I cleaned the house, I cooked, I did everything. And it just seems like it just wasn't enough.
Incessant talking could be an indicator of personality disorder, or a deliberate attempt to stall detectives from questions about why she's really here. None of this information is relevant to Stefan's death, and it seems Anna has a hard time staying on topic. Nonetheless, this information could help investigators determine whether these men are abusing her, or whether she follows a pattern of asserting potentially false accusations.
It finally clicked in my head when he held me and he made love to me and I didn't want to, and he's like, "You're mine. You're everything. You belong to me." And I said, "Yes, of course." And it's like, "I want everything. I want your spirit." And then he's whispered in my ear, he goes, "I want your soul."
The detectives have exhibited seemingly unending patience as she goes through one dramatic story after another, unprompted.
I told you not to move. I went to the Bermuda Triangle. I've done everything for you to love me, and you still don't love me. And I was like...
The officers are acquiring an incredibly detailed baseline of how she chooses to present herself. It's interesting that being in the situation that she's in, she would rather talk about past boyfriends than provide any kind of explanation for what happened with Stefan. It's important to note that this interrogation is unlike many others. The main difference is that this isn't a case of who did it, but a question of what really happened between Anna and Stefan that night. For this reason, the majority of the tactics the detectives usually use during interrogations aren't needed. because she wasn't denying killing Stefan. The detectives just wanted her to keep talking, as the more she does, the more they have to use to discredit her. This is why they're so silent and don't ask her many questions.
Yeah. These fools are just like, hey, keep it coming. Keep it coming. Aha.
Anyone in my soul? I said, no, like, not my soul. You can have my body or me or whatever you want. You cannot have my soul. That belongs to God, right? And so I lived with James, and he became my friend, and he took care of me because I was afraid to go. So, you know, I loved him as my friend, actually.
And that was up
Yeah.
up until 2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he cared for me, and he loved me, you know.
So he started to care more.
Yeah, oh, of course, yes.
More than friends.
Yes, yes, yeah. He loved me, took care of me, and, you know, he loved me, and I told him that I could not love him because I did not feel anything for him.
Right.
You know, but he was there, and then I didn't want to have with him, but after a while, he kept, like, on and on and on and on and on, and then, you know, I gave in after a while, because then I said, well, he's taking care of me or whatever, you know. He's always loved me like that, but I had no love. I couldn't love anyone.
Right.
The friend Anna has been talking about is James
I'm
Jimmy
lost, bro.
Wells.
Huh?
Investigators were able to reach out to him to learn more about their relationship.
Anything beyond that, dating relationship, talks of marriage,
Bro, this
talks
is
of kid.
irrelevant, though. It has nothing to do with the current events. She talking about an ex-boyfriend. Maybe you're going to look into psychological aspects, maybe compatibility. I don't know about that, but come on, bro. She leading y'all in circles. She talking a whole bunch of nonsense. Let's keep it a buck. She ain't making no noise.
I'm just
no
clear
type of
this up.
sense.
Actually, she did become with child at one time. We had a couple times, but we weren't serious. It was just platonic. We were real good friends. But she became with child one time, and but she suffered a miscarriage.
Okay.
She never mentions the pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage that James discussed during his interview. Instead, moving on to the story of her next relationship and a digression into her experimentations with holistic medicine before returning to the topic at hand.
And Stefan, you know, he was older, beautiful. I like intelligence. He's respectable, and
We don't
he
care about
treated me
none of
very
that, though.
good, and he liked my art. I showed him the beauty of art, the healing, and everything, and that's it.
Okay.
He did
Before we go into any depth in talking about Stefan, I want to hear how this relationship developed with you and Stefan.
Yeah, that's it.
Before we do that, though, we have to take care of a formality in order for us to talk about that.
Okay.
Are you willing to talk to us about your relationship with Stefan, how it developed and how it basically unfolded? How
are you asking me if I'm willing to? Are you saying?
Well, we have to.
This fool said stop beating around a
go through a
bush.
formality where I have to read you a statement and make sure that you understand the statement before we can discuss anything about you and Stefan last night and your relationship.
Okay.
Finally, an hour into the interview, Anna gets to the victim. The detective needs to ensure that anything she says in relation to the crime is
rest of the hour
admissible in
later.
court, so he wants to Mirandize her. The sergeant claims the procedure is just a formality, so as not to alert her to the seriousness of waiving these rights.
Is that something you're willing to do, willing to agree, so that we can continue to have our
Are you
discussion?
saying, though, I need an attorney? Are you saying?
Well, that's part of that.
He homicide. He died.
Despite his efforts, this declaration sets off warning bells for Anna. Even though they told her from the beginning that they were homicide detectives, Anna acts like she's just now learning that her actions led to his death. The surprise she's trying to convey at this point is likely disingenuous.
Yeah, Stefan is dead, yes.
I was giving him mouth to mouth.
Right, I know.
Her response to the news of Stefan's death is extremely suspicious, as she
Yeah, she ain't really got no emotion there. Let me answer it. Slow down. Let me answer it for you. She ain't really got no type of emotion. Very vague, you know, very bland. Especially if you're going to lead with the question as to asking or kind of the statement, he died. That would lead on to the fact that you'd be surprised if the answer was yes, right? Her response was flat.
has a little reaction and even gets a little defensive.
Yeah,
that was relayed on the call to 911. the fact that you were performing CPR.
So are you saying?
No, what I'm telling you is that I want to hear. I want to continue talking to you about you and your relationship with Stefan. I want to know from the very beginning how it developed. Now would be a good time for a break if you would like to take a break. I actually need to take a break myself. Do you need to go to the bathroom or anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
The interview has now reached the actual interrogation segment, and since Anna is expressing an adverse reaction to the impending Mirandization, the detective calls for a break. He likely wants to give her some time and distance from this negativity.
Sorry about that. I just need to take a break from that.
Okay, it's 10:05.
Wherever today takes you, whatever tomorrow demands of you.
Okay, let me finish my water. I'm sorry.
Go right
Drink up, baby. Wasting time.
I need some sugar.
Huh?
And I need some sugar.
Okay, are you diabetic? I'm sure you haven't had anything to eat at all.
A while, yeah.
Well, there's some candy bars in there.
Yeah.
There's like oatmeal cookies, cinnamon rolls. What do you?
Candy bar.
Oh, candy bar. Okay.
My thyroid is hyperactive.
Okay, yeah. Same way, yeah.
So yeah, it's like.
Good cop.
While waiting for Sergeant Triplett to return, Detective Evans asks a few questions unrelated to Stefan that may provide some more insight into their suspect.
Have you ever been formally diagnosed with any psychological problems or psychiatric problems?
No.
It's just something.
Bottom line, are you crazy? You can be 1,000. Let us know. Be upfront. We won't judge you. Are you nuts? Are there a couple screws loose? Is basically what he's asking, baby.
That you know that has developed because of abuse that you've sustained in relationships throughout your life, or at least throughout the latter part of the.
Yeah, no,
Yes or no? It's not that tough.
My sister were concerned, and they didn't know. So I did have an evaluation done by someone in Waco to put them at peace or whatever, and no formal diagnosis. No.
Okay.
Here, he likely wants to record any potential mental defects or insanity defenses she might allege, or lack thereof, to help build his case. Anna begins to eat the candy as Detective Evans catches his partner up on what he missed. She seems rather unconcerned and at ease sitting there, chewing her food and elaborating on her suspected thyroid issue. But then she says this.
Is there any way I can change my pants or anything? It's making me sick and looking for blood.
This could be another stalling tactic, as it appears Anna is doing everything under her power to keep from talking about Stefan.
She kind of clever though, huh? If this is true that she's really trying to, basically derail them, waste time.
We need a cover or something.
And we might be able to get you a cover, like a white Tyvek suit. Have you seen those?
What is that, bro? A Tyvek suit?
Almost look like a lab
saying,
suit.
Bro?
The clean lab suits, the white. They're made by DuPont. We have those in our upstairs in our CSU offices.
Yeah, it's just.
Would you like?
What is this fool talking about, bro? The DuPont suit, the white suit of the in the CSU office, bro. We don't know what none of that code language mean, brother. What is you telling us right now? Upstairs in the DuPonts of the CSU office, what, bro? Stop talking. Stop while you ahead, my brother.
Like for me to try to get you something like that? Okay, let me do this.
She's been sitting in these pants for hours, so it's peculiar that it's just now bothering her, especially since she's been casually chatting and eating candy bars. At times, she was even resting her hands atop the bloodstains with no appearance of disgust. While the detective gets Anna something to cover her pants, let's take a look at what we've learned about her from the interrogation so far.
She's psychotic.
Throughout each of Anna's relationships, there seems to be a common thread. She locates a rescuer who's willing to take care of her, says he's a good man, but when he allegedly suddenly and unexpectedly develops problems, such as instability, abuse, or obsessiveness, she becomes a victim.
he became obsessed with me. He thought he became possessed or something because he was breathing really hard. He just became obsessive, compulsive.
When this happens, she eventually finds the strength to get away into the arms of the next man that rescues her, repeating the cycle.
Like a year and a half later or something, I met my second husband, and we were married. I became friends with the man. Then I met my boyfriend.
At this point, the former
Starting, man, she just going from dude to dude. Like, come on, bruh. She got a pretty played out story, you know?
rescuer in her mind becomes her persecutor. This is classic thinking behavior of someone with borderline personality disorder, although to our knowledge, she's not been diagnosed with it. Left alone in the room with Sergeant Triplett, Anna makes no attempt to speak to him as she has with Detective Evans. She definitely seems to have triangulated which of the two will be her potential rescuer in this situation. The pair sit in silence for a few long minutes before Detective Evans returns.
Okay, I've got a suit coming down for you. Well, you can actually put it on, or you can just drape it over your lap, whatever you want to do.
The investigation comes to a temporary halt as detectives wait for Anna to dress. When the medical examiner's report from the autopsy of Stefan's body came back, the official cause of death was reported to be blunt force head and facial trauma. The coroner also reported incidents of blunt force trauma to his neck, torso, and extremities, as there were many injuries along the arms and wrists. Needless to say, Stefan's head suffered the most grievous wounds. There were 10 lacerations and additional abrasions and contusions, bringing the tally to 25 separate injuries, not counting those inflicted to the rest of the body. In the interview room, Anna is now dressed, so detectives once again broach the topic of Anna's Miranda rights.
We're not going to blindside you here with anything, okay? We're here to try to understand things. But in order for us to talk to you about certain things, you have to understand your rights, okay? And this is just a formality that we have to go through, okay? All right, I'm going to read these to you one at a time. And then after each statement, I will ask you if you understand them.
The officers continue reading through each, ensuring that she understands so that there can be no allegations of misconduct.
Why would I speak to you? Or why should I wait and not say anything and have my attorney present, I suppose, if I need one?
That's a personal choice. Yeah.
These statements show that Anna is not as out of it as she presented to be at the beginning of the interrogation. The fact that she's considering the risks of speaking to the detectives without an attorney present shows that her thought process is intact. This tells us that the 1 hour of stories and tangents could be a manipulation tactic.
Why would you be stuck?
I suppose because from this point on, whatever I say without counsel, then you guys take them. Am I being charged with anything?
No, ma'am. At this time, you are not charged with anything.
When she asks this, she reaches out with her hands, palms facing up, generally a sign that someone is trying to appear open.
So if I suppose that...
Or innocent.
It was going to be more...
Nobody got sympathy, though.
Okay. So if I agree...
Let me explain this to you. You are a very intelligent person, okay?
What do you say?
Well, I can ascertain the fact that you're an intelligent person. You're a very articulate person as well.
Anna clearly relishes in the detective's compliment, even in these circumstances, indicating she may be self-absorbed. The detective could potentially use flattery as an effective method to appeal to her.
Smart man, smart man.
We're not here to deceive you in any way.
Thank you.
Okay?
I have been the whole thing. I have been deceived a lot, you know? And I want to trust. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do trust.
She capping though.
So I suppose that this is what it is.
Big false flag.
I openly talk to you.
Big flag.
Because I did not want him to die. You know? If I be quiet and don't say anything, Does that make me seem like I'm guilty or I'm hiding something because I'm not saying anything until my attorney gets here? Or it doesn't make me seem like I have nothing to hide and my innocence, and it shouldn't matter who's here or who's not if I open up? Or, do you understand? Like,
it doesn't do one or the other. It's a choice. It's a right that you have. That's why we read you the right, so that we make certain that you understand.
So tell me about your bond.
Bruh
Yeah,
said
she's
that's
the
why
first
we
one to
need the
email me
rights.
on my birthday.
Anna claims she didn't want Stefan to die, but she's only expressed concern for herself thus far. She also seems unable to make decisions about herself, such as this one, without guidance. This can be a sign of dependent personality disorder. Someone suffering from this disorder has a constant need to be in a relationship and seeks out new ones as soon as a previous one ends, constantly needing someone else to take care of them. However, to our knowledge, she's never been diagnosed with this disorder.
it's really hard.
She intertwines her fingers in her lap here, as if trying to appear meek and small.
Would it make you feel better to talk about it or not to talk about it? I mean, psychologically.
Oh, of course, to talk about it.
While seemingly an effective technique, the detective's question here is questionable and possibly manipulative, as she's concerned with the legal aspects of speaking with them, and he addresses the emotional benefits instead. For the next 5 minutes, Anna goes off on yet another tangent, revisiting her past to continue painting the picture of herself as a constant victim.
I have been broken mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. That's when I realized, if I don't get up and I don't eat, I'm gonna die.
Finally, the detective speaks and begins to play into her victim mentality with the intention of making her feel like he believes everything she's been telling them. This approach appears to work.
And it took you a while, mentally and physically, to get you to a point where you finally said, enough's enough. I've got to get up. I have to do something. I have to start living my life again. Okay? We understand that.
Okay.
I will talk to you and I will tell you.
So what really happened?
So you're saying that you do want to talk to us about last night and Stefan, your relationship with Stefan? You want to waive your rights in order to talk to us?
She performs self-soothing gestures with her hands, rubbing one atop the other, signs of elevated stress. She likely realizes at this point she can't get around talking about it. The detectives have done an excellent job guiding her to this point, as she was clearly on the fence. Nonetheless, the investigators spend nearly 5 more minutes trying to get a definitive answer to this question.
I will speak to you.
Okay. So you do wish to talk to us? Okay.
Nah,
so
she can't.
You're waiving your rights so that you can talk to us?
Yes.
Okay.
With official confirmation, the detectives can now question Anna without representation.
Just start from the beginning of you and Stefan, how the two of you began your relationship. And
It was simply, we met at the lobby, and the concierge Sam introduced us. And we went out. I was interested in him because he's a biochemist, and not because of the work that I've been doing to myself and everything. That's a self-interest. All I did was study, because of the things that I've been through. I was interested in him because of his knowledge and his wisdom. I wanted to write a book or a manual and, do all that. That was my interest. I am not interested in anyone, romantically. I told him that I admire him. I was interested in the work that he did, and the reason that I was wanting to see him or, be with him was because of his work.
Okay.
Anna seems to view some of her relationships based on how the other person can help her.
They
Financial
befriend me,
merit.
and they're good, and they trust me and everything, and then they end up wanting to be romantic with me, and I don't see them that way. I'm too loving. I'm too. I care too much.
It's not my fault,
and I don't want to hurt their feelings. And
no accountability.
I'm an artist. I'm in love with love. I love to create. I want to create love and beauty and things. And I want to see you as a being. I don't want to see you as a man.
Wow.
And I don't need that type of relationship.
As usual, Anna seems to struggle with staying on topic, choosing instead to talk about herself. She's leaning in toward the detective as she speaks. Often, it's the detective who's the one invading the suspect's space, instead of the other way around. Her body language is conveying a level of closeness and intimacy that is unusual given the circumstances.
My interest in them was not romantic. I always want to work with them. Okay?
Despite this, she was not only sleeping with all of these men, but often living with them, indicating that she was likely using them. Based on what she says, she may be incapable of love or attachment to people, suggesting that her behaviors align with a person who has antisocial personality disorder with strong narcissistic traits. There's a lot of overlap between narcissism and antisocial personality, but people with just pure narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder, typically do not commit murder. It's when antisocial personality traits are in the mix that the person often commits more serious violations of the safety and well-being of others.
First, I told him, I'm like, you know what? I'm very comfortable where I'm at. I said, and if all you want to do is, play around or toy with me or whatever, I'm not interested because I'm very comfortable where I am and I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I do not need to have someone romantically, and if you just want a pastime or something, I'm not your girl. Go find somebody else because what I want is real. I want a real relationship. I want to have a man and I want to go to that man for everything.
Anna is losing a lot of credibility with her stories. First, she states that she has no interest in Stefan, yet when he expresses interest in her, she wants something serious.
And as we started, everything was good. But then he did drink.
She sound goofy.
Quite a bit. But I didn't think anything. He's accomplished. He was about to retire. He just wants to live his life, He just, it's like, okay. And I'm like...
Talk about clown world, you know what I'm saying? Boy, can she ramble. Let me know y'all thoughts thus far, man. Be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe. If you want additional content like this, man, be sure to put y'all specific recommendations and requests down in the comment section below.
Okay, that's fine. I said, but from the beginning, I'm like, if I'm going to see you as my husband, then I need for you to...
Now it's husband talk.
To do certain things, right? I want you to... He's going to start exercising. I never told him it, because he was out of shape. Completely out of shape. He was red. He was puffy. He'd been drinking a lot, and then through the course, he also told me that he suffers from depression. He gets very depressed, right? But that took a long time for him to even say that to me.
It is interesting that rather than establishing herself as a battered woman, as with the other relationships, Anna presents herself more as Stefan's caretaker. Nonetheless, the information she provides about his health may be important. Since Stefan was older and in poor health, if he did in fact attack her, it may have been possible for her to overpower him. Listing his numerous health issues, Anna tells the investigators that Stefan had an infection in his eyes, as well as an abscess in his back.
So I worked on him, and I found the abscess in his back, and it was huge. And so I broke it. And through the healing, I did what I did it, and so I took all that infection. It was an infection, and it was getting close to his spinal cord already. And that's why he couldn't see, he couldn't hear, and it was already, he was dying. He was dying. In other words, he was not taking care of himself. Right. I started, taking him out, taking care of him.
Can she
going
tell
out,
a story?
Trying to eat on a regular basis, out, make him walk, get him out of his routine.
Even if true, Anna's detailed descriptions of all these negative features seems inappropriate for a loved one that has just died and begins to reveal more about how she really feels about him. Naturally, Anna's story is just one perspective. Officers want to acquire varied points of view to determine the truth. Since Stefan is unable to speak for himself, they seek out others who knew him and interacted with him to speak to his character, while also learning more about Anna's reputation. One such witness is one of Stefan's closest friends.
In the beginning, I thought it was a perfectly normal relationship. But then both my wife and I started to feel a little bit uncomfortable together with her.
Okay. Be open, be honest. Okay. When you say uncomfortable, explain to me what do you mean by uncomfortable? Did she use bad language? Would she make rude gestures?
I think it was more like she said strange things.
Okay, such as?
For example, I mean, if there was a bottle of water or a glass of wine or something, she could say, "Yeah, do you see that fish in there?" And we said, "No, I don't see any fish."
You don't? Okay.
After this peculiar revelation, the interviewing officer wants to further explore the dynamic between Anna and Stefan.
From my understanding from going through this entire case...
She was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, y'all. She talking about she seeing fishes swimming around in wine glasses. Damn. Yeah. She may be cracked out for the nut house, the crazy house. That's where she need to go. When you plead insanity, though, that's an easy out. A lot of these folks be getting insanity pleas, you know what I'm saying? And they not even really crazy like that.
Everybody has told me that I've interviewed that Stefan always took care of Anna. He paid for everything. He took her everywhere. He did every single thing for her.
Yes.
Is that correct? He was always the guy that paid for everything.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
While Anna does acknowledge that Stefan was good to her, she doesn't sound particularly appreciative of this generosity.
He does not drive. He doesn't like to drive. And yet we need things. We run out of things. And my license is expired because I didn't have my residency. So I couldn't get my driver's license until I got my residency, okay? So I'm stuck. I don't drive. He completely became obsessed with me. He loved me, and he was like, I was his everything. And then I would look up and he would be staring at me.
You hear that? A woman complaining about a man loving her too much and claiming her to be her everything. That's be confusing. It's like, bruh, isn't that what y'all say y'all want? But then when a man display that, it's like he crazy.
Or I wake up when I was sleeping, and I wake up, he would be there, like staring at me. Then all of a sudden, I would go to sleep, and he'd wake up.
Clown world.
He would wake up like a child. I'm just your baby. I just want you to take care of me. He wake up like an infancy. And I was like, oh, that was weird to me. I don't like. And I do not want to be with a child. And he was like, come on, ooh, make love. Or he get like, he want to make love and be like that. And he was like a little kid.
What's this got to do with the story, though?
Messing me up. I was like...
In addition to contacting Stefan's friends, investigators went to Park Lane Apartments, Stefan's condominium complex, to learn more about both the victim and their suspect.
Buddy got a nice apartment, though. Buddy got a whole view. R.I.P. to the guy.
There they met with the apartment's night concierge, who was present on the night of the murder.
Would you say you know by sight Anna Trujillo or possibly Anna Fox?
Yes, I know her by Anna.
You know her by Anna?
I remember when I first started working here, she came in with him. They were out, I guess over at the park. She said that they were out over at the park. But anyway, she came over and spoke with me. It was real, real nice,
As Florence is familiar with each of them, the officer wants to get her perspective on their personalities to determine if Stefan seems like the type of man who could carry out an assault while also gauging Anna's credibility.
What do you recall, if anything, that stuck out about Mr. Anderson, about his personality or his demeanor or the way that he treated you or other people?
Mr. Anderson was very nice. He was very quiet. He seemed like a real shy type person, real quiet. I mean, he always spoke, was very cordial. And
Whoa. You just said he seemed like a shy type of person, real quiet, but then you said he always spoke.
Just kept to himself. The thing that stuck out with me about her is she seemed like she was high on something. all the time. And she just, I don't know, she just had this, when she would talk, she would kind of be like a slur, you know, but she just seemed like she was high on something. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but her and him just didn't seem like a match to me.
Okay.
It was just odd.
While Florence seems unsure of the root of Anna's slurring, many witnesses, including her friend James Wells, stated that she was often highly intoxicated. He, of course, alleged that this was primarily the result of her adaptation to Stefan's lifestyle. Meanwhile, Anna continues to cast aspersions on Stefan's lifestyle and personality.
He wouldn't bathe for a long time. He'd go days without bathing, you know? I was like, you have to bathe. So, he started getting better and made him shampoo his hair, started eating, and then I finally had to break down and tell him, let's have I'm like, Stefan, I'm not there yet. I feel that you're an older man, and I feel like I'm sleeping with my grandfather. That's not cool. I need for you,
Stefan. Why she look like she's treating homie like he's her son, you know, educating him, Stefan. No, we can't do such a thing. Like, bruh, what is you on? That's why you know she lying. Homie had some money, he had some bread. She wanted access to it. She liked the lifestyle. She liked the resources. And you know y'all was still sleeping together. Like, let's keep it a buck.
to get healthy and to get good so I can be attracted to you, so you can be my man. And so I told him, look, I need for you to go to the doctor because, number one, you're waking up. You're either on some drugs, because he would all of a sudden change. Vividly, I think he was using some type of drug.
Like
he didn't want to admit it to me. But I don't know why, because he has a whole pharmacy in his apartment. I don't know. I said, like, you don't have to answer me, but you're either taking some type of drug because you change. I can tell when somebody drinks and they act a certain way. Completely different. I'm like, you're either on some type of drug, I'm going to tell you, or I'm sorry, but I finally got to the point after a while I was sickened. He was maybe getting dementia or some mental thing was affecting his brain.
Now that she's torn down Stefan's physical traits, Anna attacks his mind as well.
You know, I said, or you're possessed. Because the way you act, you know? And he agreed. Like, yeah, I do feel like I have two horns coming out. I do feel possessed. I feel like I have the devil in me. And that's what he said. And I'm like, I take that very serious because that's real.
She may be trying to paint Stefan as a monster to validate her accusation that he attacked her, but her claims seem more and more outlandish.
Socially, he does good. That's when he comes home, that's when he falls apart. But I was there to see it. Nobody else saw it because he's never lived with anyone.
Right. While this could be true, it may be a preemptive attempt to cover herself in case anyone contradicts all these behavioral issues she alleges about Stefan.
It started to get so bad that I would tell him these things. I told him, you need to go get an assessment to see if you got dementia. Oh, it was like I was a messenger. He hated me for telling him his weaknesses or the things that he would do. He would get angry with me, right? And he hates me. And I'm like, I'm not going to stand here and be, you know, I'm trying to help you. And so that's when I went back and I went with my friend James.
Maybe Stefan was angry with Anna about her pointing out his flaws, or maybe it was something else. Whatever the reason, police found that in the Park Lane Apartments visitor permissions, Stefan had granted Anna visitation rights 2 different times, and each time he canceled those permissions. However, records showed that she was listed as a guest of the apartment on the nights of June 8th and 9th, 2013.
I mean, Stefan, he was a genuinely nice guy, and I got the impression, but I'm not 100% sure, of course, because I was not up in the apartment, but that he regarded her as his ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
And then the Saturday, Sunday when he was killed, she was supposed to go to Waco. Stefan tried to arrange something with taxi and so on or whatever. And then I got this message on Sunday morning, which was a disaster.
Okay. So even though she was planning on leaving, going to Waco, and he was still, out of the goodness of his heart, helping her go see her children, she did this anyway.
Yes.
Back in the interrogation room, Anna has changed her tone.
It got too much for me. I care for so much for him. You know, and what do? He has no family. Nobody watches after him. Nobody. No, he has nobody. And he would tell me that. Anna, take care of me. I want you to, you know? And I'm like, I promise I will. You know? And that's how it kind of went. And he's lovely and he's beautiful and I love him too.
These statements seem to contradict what she said prior about him as well as their relationship.
And then he would do really good. And then I'm like, okay, cool. You know? Me too. I get happy. Okay, we're doing good. You know, you're taking care of yourself. I would have to make sure, you know, he was always eating, and I was always worried about him. You know, and then also when he drinks, he wanted to give me the card and go on shopping sprees, and he bought me, we went shopping one time, and he bought me $4,000 shoes, no, a purse and shoes. Well, he wanted stilettos for $1,500 for stilettos, okay? And then he bought a purse for $4,000.
That's right, the stilettos. Just one of many generous and expensive gifts that she claims Stefan purchased for her.
The red bottoms?
I did not know how much those things cost until they gave him the bill.
Right.
And then we came home and I'm like, it to me was a waste of money because here I am, I can do so much money, you know, and I didn't want to touch, I don't like touching money. I want to do the work and somebody pays the bill, and right? I don't want to touch money.
What are you saying, bro?
I don't can't handle it. What?
Physically, you do not.
Yeah.
You do not want to touch it.
Yeah.
What is it about the money you don't like to touch? Because of the thought of where it's been?
No.
Or who's touched it? Or is
no.
it?
Well, I suppose it was.
The detective may be trying to determine if she experiences obsessive-compulsive disorder here. Between this and his earlier questions about psychological assessment, he seems to be seeking a mental health reason to explain her behavior.
Because of what it represents.
Okay, that's
and
what I
what
thought.
people do to get the money.
That's what I thought.
Okay,
no,
yeah,
it's not what you thought, bro. You just guessed, and you was completely off, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And how people buy people, and they kill, and they do whatever they want just to get that dollar, right? So I'm like, I do not want to be corrupted. I do not. I believe in that. I don't want to touch it. So therefore, I do the work. You take care of, you know, the things that I need, and I'm good.
It doesn't make sense how she can want to be taken care of, but not want anyone's money. The two concepts go hand in hand. It's possible that Anna is trying to downplay the importance of money so that the detectives don't think she was using Stefan for financial reasons.
There's a cycle, a history here where you have become involved with people who have become confused because of the relationship. They may confuse your kindness towards them, the way that you act towards them, for what they want, which sounds and oftentimes is.
Now the detective begins to take a greater role in the interview.
I am pretty open, pretty straightforward, and they agree.
Right.
And I want to be friends. I say I want to be friends.
Right.
I don't know where in their mind, or I want to work together, you know. And I do take care of you, and I love. Yeah, I mean, you're my friend, or if you're my boyfriend, then you're my boyfriend, you know. That's it.
Oh, she hitting
A lot
on
of
me.
men look at it and go, yeah, we have things in common now, but down the road, the common thing that's going to bind us is going to be that intimate or that romantic relationship. As to where you've got a point where, no, it's not going to be that way because I'm not attracted to you that way, but I am attracted to you because of your mind and the things that you do in your life.
Yes. Anyway, so it got to the point he got upset and whatever, and then, you know, he would regress, like I said, and so this is where, so pointing, and it's good. So
She seems confused and lost as she tries to pick up her story again, repeating herself quite a bit.
Look,
she said,
did you know there was a government-funded education grant that could...
The detectives provide a summary of where she was at, up to the point where Anna had returned to staying with James.
Let's dial it back a little bit, baby
She picks
girl.
up the story once more.
Point being, I went back with my friend and then James. Yeah, because, we're just across the street, so I feel safe there and everything. I guess one of his friends staying with him, and he has a little girl.
Miss Trujillo know about Shonda? Is that her name?
Yes. All of us are friends.
Okay, you're all friends.
Yes. Shonda lives with me. Like,
okay.
We are roommates, and her kids live with me.
Are y'all in an intimate relationship, or
yes, we're
you and Shonda are in a dating relationship or intimate relationship?
This is how she ended up being back at my house because she hadn't been staying with me. She had been staying with him, but out of nowhere, one night in January, she just showed up. She was drunk with a lady from KCOH, the radio station. She dropped off. She was like, "Hey, I was just making sure." She told me to bring her over here, and at that time, I guess she wouldn't confide in me because I'm a man or whatever, but she told Shonda later on that night that she had gotten in a fight with him, and that's why she just showed up at our house.
James paints a different picture of Anna's arrival, far less amicable with Stefan than she describes in her version of events. That night, Anna got into a physical altercation with James's girlfriend, Chanda. Anna claims that Chanda pushed her first and knocked her down before she began hitting her. She tells detectives that they made up and apologized, but Chanda still went behind her back and threw out all of her things. Her fight with Chanda demonstrates a propensity toward violence, and it is not an isolated incident.
This particular day I picked her up, I noticed that she was something was wrong. So she asked me to order her a drink. I bought her a wine. I got me something to eat. Then we were about to leave, but we stand at the bar, and I kind of asked her, I was like, "Are you drunk?" Because she was kind of acting kind of weird, woozy, but I couldn't play if something was wrong with her or if she was actually drunk because I hadn't been there before.
How would you describe weird?
She was just like kind of mumbling to herself, and I'm like, "Are you?" And then she was kind of like laughing and giggling, and I'm like, "Are you drunk?" To the point, "Are you drunk?" But I never thought anything of it. She drank her wine. We left. I took her home. When I got home, we were sitting in my room, and I'm sitting in my recliner chair watching TV, and she comes over as if she's going to kiss me, and she leans down and she bites me on my head, like violently, and it, like where it pulls the skin away from my head. So at that time, I told her, Anna, you have to leave my house because there's a 9-year-old here. She's a little girl. I don't want her. Your drinking has become a problem. So I don't want that kind of example for her to be here. So I asked her if she has to leave my house.
With nowhere else to go, Anna appeals to Stefan for help, just days before he would meet his end on the wrong side of an expensive stiletto. Unfortunately, this isn't even the first time that Anna resorted to biting someone while drinking. This time, the victim of her assault was Stefan himself, while they were dining at Bodega's taco shop. The couple were regulars there, and police questioned Herbert Vargas Diaz, the manager. He explained that some customers told him that Anna had gotten into an argument with Stefan during one of their visits and had bitten him on the face. While he admits he didn't see the actual assault take place, he did get ice for the wound.
That's the last thing you finna do with me, you know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna bite me. Like, that's the ultimate disrespect. You gonna bite me and bite me to the point the skin bleed? To where you peel back skin? What are you doing? Like,
the customers in question were a couple that Anna and Stefan were dining with, which included his good friend Anders.
She just arrived, as I recall it, from nowhere and was extremely aggressive and bite him in his cheek. So there was, really a bite mark in the cheek on the right side. And then she just disappeared and left her bag with a computer and everything.
One, do you know why? Did you hear Anna make any remarks to him before she bit him?
No.
And number two, did Mr. Anderson say why she might have bit him after the incident? No, nothing at all.
No.
Was he?
Nada.
Yeah, the only thing I know is that Stefan and I, we left her bag at the Bodega's restaurant. to the bartender and walked away.
Okay.
And went to other place, and Stefan was crying.
Okay. But he was
emotionally extremely touched by the
okay
whole thing.
Because of the experience. Not that he was actually injured, but the emotion of it.
Nor is this the first time that Stefan allegedly suffered physically at Anna's hands, in a very literal sense on another occasion.
What was that? She was trying to strangle him.
She was trying to strangle him?
Yes, and he said to me, she is so extremely strong.
Okay.
Outside of physical altercations, investigators learned about other incidents involving unusual behavior from Anna. Lil Brown, the manager of Stefan's condominium complex, provided an incident report which contained several reported situations involving Anna Fox. The most significant was that on October 27, 2012, while extremely intoxicated, she reportedly sliced the hose on the back of Stefan's refrigerator. Anders remembers his friend telling him about the incident.
The first thing I heard about was that she had pulled out the refrigerator from the wall and tried with a scissor to cut the water supply to the refrigerator. And Stefan woke up and said, what are you doing? Yeah, there's an entity in there.
Anna's behavior suggests that she may have significant issues with impulsivity. Thinking there was an entity in the fridge could suggest that she may have been suffering from some paranoid ideation. Both of these symptoms can be present in someone with borderline personality disorder.
Guys, stop getting ripped off by your car insurance company and check this out. Okay, are you ready?
She got
so let's
nighttime concierge Florence McLean was also present at the time.
She had cut the back water thing on the refrigerator, and we had to call maintenance to come and fix it because water was going everywhere. She said it was making a lot of noise, and so she cut the line with a knife. So it was like, why would she do something like that? But Mr. Anderson was just real quiet about it when Sam went up there to check on it. And he just told me, he said, I told Mr. Anderson, why in the world would she do that? And he said, he don't know. She just went over and cut the wire.
However, as the incident drew to a close, the concierge on morning duty made a prophetic statement. I advise Mr. Anderson to take the incident with this lady very serious, or the situation could escalate into something major down the road.
A lot of people had warned him, even one of the other concierges that work here, Sam, he had even told him, Mr. Anderson, you need to get away from that lady. She's crazy. She's very aggressive.
The report also featured complaints about Anna's behavior from others on the property. A manager on site from another company also commented on her unusual behavior toward his workers, observing that she was pretty weird. In light of these recurring issues, manager Lil Brown approached Stefan directly. He defended Anna as a friendly person who he was helping out temporarily, but agreed to discuss the incidents with her. Nonetheless, she'd been staying with him a month at that point, and the hotel staff wanted clarification. Manager Lil Brown made a special note to keep an eye on Anna Fox. Investigators continued to learn about more examples of Anna's negative behavior. Describing the previous incidents reminded Anders of another situation that Stefan had to endure.
She took his car, was driving around somewhere, and it was destroyed, and he had to repair it for quite a lot of money.
After learning of these events, the investigator has a few relevant questions for Anders.
Did he ever say he was in fear for his life or anything like that?
No.
No, and he just, even though these incidents happened, he still stayed with her. And
right.
Did he ever tell you that he loved her or anything like that?
Yeah, he did that in the beginning, definitely. And he was very happy meeting her. But then, after this incident at Bodegas, when she bit him in the cheek, my wife and I said, we're not going to meet when you're together with her, because we feel afraid.
Yes, sir.
So, but then, I don't know. I got the impression not long time before he was actually murdered that he felt threatened by her, because he called me and asked for something, talking about something, and then he said to me several times, I have to stop, she's coming.
Okay.
This doesn't sound like the same Anna that she herself is describing back in the interview room.
Bruh.
And believe me, I try to keep the peace, you know? But anyways, we got into a fight yesterday. She hit me. Look, I still have the bruises with a stick. She kept a stick. She hit me with it also. And then James got in it too, you know? And by then, you know, I was like, I calmed down or whatever, but then, you know, I was talking to him and he said that, oh, by the way, so-and-so's coming. What, you know, I was talking to him and I turned and I hit him with my teeth on his head because we were sitting together. And I turned and at the same time he looked at him and so I hit him with my teeth on his forehead. And he became angry that I did it on purpose, and I didn't.
This explanation of the injury to James's head is not only peculiar, but deviates from his version of the story, especially since she's implying the situation was entirely accidental. According to a police statement, Chanda claimed that Anna started the fight and showed the officer her defensive wounds. Anna went to the hospital for her injuries, but the officer didn't file charges because he wasn't sure who was to blame.
When that happened, of course, I called Stefan. And then, you know, I've been staying with Stefan. Yeah, I've been staying with Stefan and Stefan, because Stefan and I were, you know.
Her open hands spread out in front of her is known as the rogatory display. This body language usually indicates that the person wants the other person to believe what they're saying. It is a low confidence position, so it can be a red flag if the person is stating a fact, while their palms are open like this. Truthful individuals usually don't need to ask or plead that someone buys their story.
We're doing good and he's better and, you know, he's bathing, his skin is not, you know, he's looking better, he feels good.
Nuts, bro.
Now he's like, he's spiritual, he believes, he likes it. He says he was inspired and he said that he didn't think he could love again, but I brought love again into his life, so he's very grateful.
Notably, Anna begins to describe her relationship with Stefan as idyllic in the days in which the murder took place. It's common for people who are guilty of wrongdoing to lie or exaggerate about having a good relationship with the victim before the crime in an attempt to remove the motive for intentional harm. In her case, it also sets up the common pattern of a sudden and unexpected victimization.
And then, of course, James is devastated, and he keeps calling me back to go back, that he will forgive him, and, you know, and forgive him, and he's sorry that he loves me, he never meant to hurt me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I finally went and got my things.
In her story, James is constantly calling her and begging her to come back, which is vastly different from what he said. He does say that he eventually heard from Anna again, however, regarding her belongings. Anna now directs the narration to the events of that night, the last before Stefan's death.
We went to 1550 and, you know, we were drinking, everything was good.
So you and Stefan went out?
Yes.
Okay. What's 1550?
It's a club
on
Alameda.
Okay.
We go there, we eat. That's what we do. We eat and, you know, it's very nice. Everybody.
Last night.
Yes, okay. We went, we ate, and you know, we were having celebrating, we were having a nice time, you know, and
she lost.
It was good, and
Anna noticeably gets tripped up when discussing the evening at the club. Any change in speech patterns and demeanor compared to a suspect's well-established baseline is something in which detectives will note.
So, what's the secret? How have you guys
messed up, baby girl? Be sure to hit that like button for me.
We have
man.
a deep, almost spirit.
It was good, and people were talking to me, and you know, it was okay, you know, and he got kind of serious. I said, "What's wrong?" He's like, "No, nothing." I'm like, "You changed, right?" And like, people come over here, and like, he started to kind of get, like, you know, like, real kind of possessive and kind of bringing me in, like. You know, and
the people you were talking to, were they
in the club right
in
there.
Your group that you were with?
No, it was just me and him we went.
Okay.
We were sitting at the bar.
Essentially, they were strangers.
Yeah.
So he's getting jealous you're talking to strangers, right?
Yeah, but he was right there. He was right there with me.
As the atmosphere begins to change, Anna once more indicates that Stefan is the source of discontent.
And then somebody ordered like a drink. I think it was like a gin and they put cranberry. And I'm like, Bombay and cranberry. I'm like, and I heard him. I'm like, I said, what was the drink? He goes, did you put cranberry and, and gin? It's like, yeah. He goes, it's really good. And I said, oh, okay. He goes, if you don't mind. He goes, here. He didn't tell me, but he ordered a drink for me too. And he said, here, what, if it's okay, he asked him, if it's okay, I want to try it. And so he got me a drink.
I don't know if I can do this. Just sit in this interrogation and be like, bruh, like, cops really got a tough job. If I got to listen to this stuff for like a whole 3 hours, bro, may have to put my 2 weeks in. May have to resign, fellas. This is a different level, a different form of patience right here. You know what I'm saying?
That, I felt he didn't like it. He got jealous. And so we finished drinking and everything, we kept drinking and we were fine. He was okay. Well, okay, so we go home and everything's good.
Despite Anna's explanation of Stefan's seriousness and jealousy issues, she claims that everything was fine and good, implying they left and went home without incident. However, investigators learned that she'd skipped a few key elements in her story that took place in between. Stefan had called a cab when he was ready to leave the 5015 bar, and it arrived at 1:45 a.m. Rosemary Gomez was the official cab driver.
We had noticed during surveillance images that they had been, this couple, man and woman, had been dropped off at the location by a yellow cab. And you were the driver of that yellow cab that night?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is actually untrue. Investigators later learned that she was, in fact, the passenger. She was actually in the passenger seat, running the meter and GPS. The actual driver was her common-law husband, Reagan Cannon. She claimed that she occasionally brought her husband along so she would feel safer driving at night, and she was afraid that if her company learned that he was actually driving at the time, she would lose her job.
When I pulled up, a male came out, and an older gentleman, white-haired, and I asked him, I said, is your name? His name was Esteban. Anyway, I forget his name.
Stefan Anderson?
Mr. Anderson, that's correct.
She said
Esteban. Because it's on the meter, his name prints out. So I asked him, are you Mr. Esteban? And he said, yes.
Okay.
And he said, I said, did you call for a cab? And he says, yes. And he said, can you wait just a minute? I have a friend going with me. And I said, yes, sir.
Throughout her explanation, she refers to herself as the driver, leaving her husband out of the narrative completely.
So then he comes back because he was having trouble getting her, to come.
Okay.
So that's what I figured because he kept talking to her and telling her to come on. Then he comes back and he said, my friend is going to go with me. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. He said, just please give me a minute. Can you wait? I said, yes, sir. So then he goes back again.
I wonder how they had found out that her husband was with her. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they looked at some type of surveillance footage, but there you go.
And then he comes back.
Caught in your lie. And I wonder if she actually got fired.
Take this taxi. And he said, yeah, turn the, he said, if you have to turn the meter on.
Okay.
And I said, okay. So he said, just a minute, my friend is coming. So then when, the doors open the whole time. So I'm watching him to make sure he's going to get in the cabin. Who's coming with him? So when I turn, the third time, he's going back to the same lady. And I can't hear exactly what he says, but all I heard was the lady scream. The lady said, go get a cab, real loud like that. I mean, I could hear it plain and clear. She said, go get the cab.
Later, detectives were able to get in touch with Reagan Cannon to hear his side of the story as well.
So that girl, Anna, when she got in the cab, what'd she say to you?
What did she say to me?
Yeah, was she cussing you or was she cussing Rosemary?
She was cussing the man.
Oh, she was cussing?
Well, she was just cussing in general, just being a butthead. Well, at first, whenever we stopped at the bar to pick him up, he came out. He asked us to hold on, that he needed to get his friend.
Okay.
And he went to the door, and she was standing right in the doorway.
Okay.
It was a side entrance, and she was standing right in the doorway talking to another man. And he walked up to the doorway to her and asked her to come get in the cab, told her he had a cab. She starts hollering at him, telling him to go get a cab.
Okay.
And he's telling her, I've got a cab in the parking lot.
If there was any doubt, all reports indicate that Anna was highly intoxicated.
And I'm like, man, she would find her another cab. Then and there, I would have got in the cab and said, lady, you know, however you get home the best way you can, because I'm out of here.
Okay.
The next thing I know, he's walking with her, helping her because she's having, trouble walking.
Okay.
And he's holding her hand and he brings her. Okay, the door's open on the back door on the passenger side.
Okay.
So he comes around to my side, the driver's side, and opens the door and gets her in. She gets in and sits down, and then as soon as she sits down, he goes around and comes in and gets in and shuts the door. And I said, where are you going? And it showed on the meter. I said, is this the address? He said, yes. Right away when he said yes, the lady proceeds to tell me how to go and how to drive. She said, we're going to so-and-so address, and you good up here. And she said something, and I said, ma'am, I got this. I'm going to put it in the GPS and we'll follow. She said, I'm telling you how to go, and this is the way you're going to go.
And she starts telling directions, and he's trying to give directions too, and she's telling him to shut up. That he doesn't know what he's talking about, and this and that.
So as we're going along, she's trying to tell me how to drive and how to get there. She's still going on cussing and stuff, and I just thought in my mind, this lady's had too much to drink. I'm just gonna ignore her. And so then when she was in the back, and she tells Esteban, Mr. Esteban, she said, Esteban, what the he said, aren't you going to tell her anything? And he says, what do you want me to tell her? She's not doing nothing wrong. She'll get us there. He says, be quiet. She'll get us there. He says, she's doing her job. And she said, what the she was just...
Well, you can tell us. I mean...
She was just going, what the She said, you're not going to tell her nothing for telling me something? And he's like, but she didn't do nothing wrong to you. He said, just be quiet. We'll be home in a minute.
Rosemary then goes into a detailed description of Stefan's demeanor during the events, which corresponds with what other witnesses have said about his personality.
The gentleman, Mr. Esteban, he was very calm, very patient, very, passive type of person. He was just like attending to her, helping her. You know what I mean? He never got out of line. He never cursed. He never raised it. He was just very calm, very nice, older gentleman. Then when we get to the house, the meter, it said $6 almost $7. And he said, I don't have cash. And I said, you don't have cash? He said, no, can I pay with the credit card? And I said, you want to pay with the credit card for $7? And he said, is that okay? And I'm like, well, if that's all you got, okay. And then she says, then the lady butts in and she says, why don't you come tomorrow? She said, just come back tomorrow and pick up your money.
And she proceeds to tell us, don't worry about the cab fare. Come and get it tomorrow.
I said, ma'am, I'm talking to him. And she said, you. She said, I said, come tomorrow. She was very, how do I say, bossy and pushy. Aggressive. And bossy and pushy. And she's like, I told you, she was talking to me like that. She said, I told you to come tomorrow, you and get your money. I said, man, we don't do that. I said, I'm taking care of it. And then Esteban told her, he said, be quiet and behave. He said, we'll be out in a minute. He said, just wait.
So we wouldn't, you had to unlock the doors to let the customer out.
Yeah.
We didn't unlock the doors.
And that's when she got nasty with you or with Rosemary, right?
Right. She starts cussing, let me out of this cab. And we told her, ma'am, we can't let you out of the cab until you make arrangements for payment.
Yeah.
Well,
that's understandable.
Yeah, she proceeds to scream and cuss and holler. You can say what you want to me, but you ain't going to say a whole lot to my wife.
Yeah.
And I looked at Mr. Esteban. I said, Mr. Esteban, that's it. I'm calling the police. Because she was, to the point where she was too drunk, she was cursing, and she was starting to get mean. And I don't take chances with customers like that.
Inside the complex, Florence McLean is working the desk.
I recall actually, she came in first. I saw the both of them pull up in the taxi, and she got out of the taxi. She came in first, and she came straight to my counter, and she said, "Boy, we had a really rough night tonight. This taxi cab driver drove us all around, out of the way, and he expects us to pay for it. And she said, I'm trying to tell him he doesn't have to pay for this.
Anna was likely still fuming that the cab driver wouldn't follow her personal directions to the hotel.
And then she called out to Stefan. She said, Stefan, come on here, you know.
Where was she when she said that?
She was standing here at the front desk.
Already curious with Esteban, so to speak. Mr. Stefan, what was you intrigued about? Like, what was so cool about her? Why did you keep her along, bro? Why did you keep her around? You should have kicked her to the curb ages ago, my boy.
Then she said it again, and then she walked to the door, and she said, Stefan, come on, you know, just come on inside. And she was real aggressive with it. And he was out there trying to pay the taxi cab driver. And from in here, he indicated, like, you know, go on in, you know. But I couldn't tell what he was saying. To me, it looked like he was indicating just go on in. And that's when she went back to the door again, and she opened the door and she said, Stefan, come on inside, you know. And then she just walked on and went on and took the elevator up.
And when me and him were in the car, and we were waiting for the authorization, yes. And I told him, I said, Mr. Esteban, I said, what were my exact words? I said, Mr. Esteban, you need to be careful. I said, I don't know the man. I never seen him or met him, but the way she was acting, I said, Mr. Esteban, I've been around a lot of joints. And I told Mr. Esteban, you need to be careful. I said, this lady's going to end up getting you in trouble with the police, or something bad's going to happen because of the way she behaves when she's drinking. And when he left, you know, he was fixing to leave. I told him, I said, Mr. Esteban, and he said, yeah. I said, please be careful. I said, because, you know, I said, your friend is, he never said girlfriend, wife, or who she was. He just kept mentioning her as friends. Okay. And then I said, please be careful. And I said, because she's had a lot to drink and she's not in her right mind.
This wasn't the first time that Stefan received a warning to stay away from Anna, but it would be the last. Finally, Anna prepares to explain the events that would ultimately lead to Stefan's untimely demise.
Well, okay, so we go home and everything's good. And then, you know, I have my things, you know, and as a matter of fact, tomorrow I was going to go to Waco to visit my family. And I was going to leave to see my daughter and to see my mom. And so when we got home, I said, okay. I said, well, you know, I said, let me get my things, because tomorrow, you know, I'm going to leave. I said, and let's make plans, because it's Aaron's birthday. It's on the 15th. He changed. He was like, you know, no, what's wrong? No, nothing. And I was like, okay. And so I let it go.
She said, okay.
This could, of course, have something to do with the taxi events, which she didn't reveal to investigators.
And then he just kind of started pacing around. You know, and I went to the restroom, and I came back out, and he was just really serious and had this weird look on his face. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong? You know, he's like, you know, I get jealous when you're talking to those guys, and, you know, and if you're, you know, I'm sorry, I know I get jealous. I can't help it. I just want to keep it to myself, and they're so beautiful. I know, you know, you can talk to whoever you want, but and he started to get mad. And I'm like, no, Stefan, you know, you were there, we didn't do anything. You know, you saw me, and, you know.
Anna represents herself as the calm voice of reason here, which is completely at odds with witness reports.
He started to escalate, right? And then he goes, oh, and then now you're going to leave? You're going to leave a whole week? And I was, yeah. You said it was okay. You're supposed to come, and we're supposed to go look for an apartment. You know, I'm spending this week with my mom, and then, because he has he's working with a student, writing a thesis or something. Mm-hmm. Can I have some more water?
How many times have you got on here and had no idea what they was talking about?
She said, can I have some
water?
How
many times have you
Mid-sentence, Anna stops and requests more water. This demonstrates how emotionally disconnected she is from the situation. This also appears to be a stalling technique so she can think about what she's going to say about how Stefan died.
He started getting jealous. Like, you know, you're going to go with your mom, and, you know, I'm not going to see you. And I was like, it's okay. If you don't want to, I won't go.
At this point, it would make sense for Anna to be mad or upset, and her depiction of herself in this manner is difficult to believe.
He starts to get out of control, and he's yelling, and he's put into a frenzy. And I said, you know what? And just because what happened, you know, I'm already bruised and everything. Believe me, I'm the one that always leaves, because that's the only thing I can do, right? I wanted to leave, and he didn't let me leave. He wouldn't let me leave. Please let me leave tonight.
Help me understand, okay? When he wouldn't let you leave, did he just tell you couldn't leave? Did he stand in front of you and wouldn't let you go to the door? Did he push you away from the door, pull you away? What was this process of not letting you leave?
How was he prohibiting you from leaving?
Oh, yeah, because the suitcases were right there by the door.
This kid, she said, oh, good question.
He thought I was just going to grab him and leave, right? But to be honest, I don't care. I'm just going to leave, and I don't care what material things.
Right.
But he doesn't like it that I don't care, because he can't stop me. You see?
This seems like a critical component for her defense, yet Anna doesn't actually answer the detective's questions. This is a deflection and a huge red flag. Furthermore, she contradicts herself by saying that Stefan wouldn't let her leave, then telling detectives he can't stop me when they ask how he was preventing her.
I was crying because he was saying really mean things, right? And then he just started making fun of how, I'm not like your friend. I'm not going to beat you up. I'm not going to hurt you. I would never hurt you. And, you know, and like, just, you know, like degrading me and telling me that I was basically stupid for allowing somebody to hit me.
The way she touches her head and shoulders while explaining this verbal assault are out of sync, which is an indication of deception. This movement is an illustrator which should sync up to natural punctuation points, but Anna's seem to be slightly off. This use of an illustrator may be just for show and an attempt to make the detectives think she's being truthful.
I'm like, please stop. Please stop talking. Please stop. Stop talking.
That's a pure psychopath, man. It's pure nut job. When they willing to like reenact it, they're doing all the motions like, oh, he did this. It's like, bro, none of that happened though. They living in La La Land, bro.
And he wouldn't stop. And his face got red. And he changed. He became infuriated, mad.
She uses exaggerated facial expressions as she claims he got red and infuriated, which makes little sense if she's being as calm and agreeable as she claims. On top of that, she seems to enjoy telling the story and having the attention of the detectives.
And then I started to shake, and I became like, you know, because I saw him, you know, and then he just came in towards me. He goes, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to leave me again, ever. And I'm like, no. So he grabbed me, and we started,
Anna deviates from her baseline as she stutters and repeats over her words while trying to explain what happened when he allegedly grabbed her.
Turning, you know, like he's a weightlifter. He used to lift weights when he was young, so he's very strong.
Now that it's a benefit to her cause, Stefan is strong, a former weightlifter, whereas before she described at length that he was old and sickly.
So when he grabbed you, y'all start like wrestling?
Yeah, because he grabbed me. Okay. You know, and I was like,
where in the apartment were you at that point when he grabbed you? Do you remember?
I think we were in the hall. Wait.
This is where Stefan's body was later found.
We started wrestling around, and I got away, and he came after me, and he grabbed me, and he wouldn't let me go, and he started wrestling with me. I was fighting, right? And I was begging him to let me go, but I did grab by the hair, and I was trying to get out, you know? And then he wouldn't. He got more on top of me, and I couldn't breathe all over my face, you know?
Is he sitting on you or laying on you? Or?
Yeah, he's on top. Yeah, he got me, and we wrestled because I was trying to get away. So he landed on top of me. Okay. And so I grabbed I remember grabbing him by the hair or his shirt or whatever I could, right, to try to get from underneath him because I was suffocating. I wasn't breathing in it.
The entire retelling of this story is problematic. She states that she grabbed him, but when acting it out, she reaches her hands over her head behind her. She also describes the details with no reference to her feeling scared or fearful. People usually include their own emotions when telling a story like this if it's true. In addition, when a person that has experienced such trauma tells the story for the first time, they rarely recall the story in sequential order as she's doing. They usually jump around a lot.
And so I was like, and he was hitting me and I couldn't breathe. So the only thing I could do is get this arm and I don't know if I took my shoe off or I was there. And I was pleased that, and I wasn't in there. So I got the shoe and I started like, please, like whatever I could. I was trying to grab whatever I could. I was just, I was hitting him to please get away, right?
Based on how she just described their positioning, it doesn't seem possible that she could grab a shoe that she was wearing, and her reenactment of hitting him in the head with it seems improbable. The reenactment itself is unusual, as most people would feel guilt and shame for their actions and would refrain from reliving it in such a way. Furthermore, crime scene photos indicate that the other shoe was still in place alongside Stefan's in the hallway, as it seems unlikely she would return one shoe there after the confrontation. It seems more probable they were both there on the floor and she grabbed one of them there in the hallway where he died.
How did we all
Crazy,
meet?
man. Clown world.
I wanted to help a couple find the house,
Ridiculousness.
so I started advertising on social media through.
And then he lost his balance while I was hitting him, and then I got on top of him, and I was like, stay down, Stefan. But then he grabbed me. He wouldn't let me go. He kept me like, and I was like, let me go. And
this is another questionable part of her story. If she were truly in flight or fight mode and was able to get out from beneath Stefan, she likely would have fled and tried to escape.
And then he, like, when he would grab me, he was trying to hit me, and I was like, please. And then he grabbed me, and I was just hitting him with the shoe, please stop. And then that's when I was trying to get, and he wouldn't let me, it's like, he had me, and I was like,
somebody
please.
need to tell her to stop talking, man. She just digging herself in a deeper hole. Like, what is you saying right now?
Like, Stefan. And then that's when I saw the blood, and I was like, Stefan, please, listen, you're bleeding.
It's utterly unbelievable that she would not notice that amount of blood immediately. Anna's jeans were soaked with it.
If I let you go, can you not hurt me? I was afraid if I got off of him, he was gonna, I know he was gonna get up and he was gonna hurt me. So I was having him, and I was like, please, Stefan, and he was growling like, please. I said, I'm gonna call the ambulance, okay? I said, I'm gonna call help because you're bleeding. And he's like, okay. He still said, okay, and I'm like, okay. And then that's when he said, okay. I moved him and everything, and he was breathing, and then he started going kind of like that, and so I'm like, Stefan, and I don't know,
Her story is beginning to break down here, but she makes special emphasis repetitively that Stefan was breathing.
I didn't know what to do first, to go look for the phone or leave him, so I started doing mouth to mouth, and, just because he was like grasping for air.
Given the state the police found Stefan, if she had given mouth to mouth to him, she would have had blood all around her mouth area. Yet she doesn't.
He was breathing. And I'm like, okay, you're breathing. Okay, and that's when I grabbed him and I was doing the, yes, and then I was breathing and then up and Stefan, and everything. And then when he started breathing, I heard his breath, like, okay, good. I said, stay awake. And I hit him, like, stay awake. Like, please stay awake. And then that's when I went to look for the phone. And that's when I called. And that's it. That's what happened.
And just like that, Anna's narrative comes to a sudden end. When someone is giving a truthful account of an event, there are usually 3 parts: an introduction, main event, and epilogue. However, when the epilogue is very brief, such as Anna's, this can be a red flag for deception.
Gee.
For a long moment, the detectives observe her, and she looks directly at them as though trying to ascertain whether they believe her story or not. It seems pretty clear that they do not. Anna's story seems to be the only source investigators have about what happened once Stefan arrived in his apartment complex, as there were no other witnesses. Or were there?
Sometime early that morning of June the 9th, you were asleep in your apartment and you heard a noise. Is that correct?
Yes.
Describe that noise that you heard.
So it was a noise loud enough to wake me. I'm not sure exactly what the noise was that woke me, but after I was awake, it was a noise that indicated a large object was being knocked against the wall or against the floor. Because I felt the wall vibrate at one point. I don't know what the object was. And I also heard door slam.
Okay. Could you tell which direction it was coming from?
Yes, I could tell. Initially, I wasn't aware because I was still sleepy.
Okay.
But once I woken up, I was aware it was coming from behind me, which is the apartment that we're speaking of.
Mr. Anderson's
Yes.
apartment? Okay.
Yes.
This could be a reference to Anna going into the bathroom and closing the door behind her. However, the loud slam would seem to indicate that she wasn't as calm as she made herself out to be.
And then he just kind of started pacing around. I went to the restroom, and I came back out, and he was just really serious and had this weird look on his face. And I'm like, okay, what's wrong?
Did you hear anybody yelling, screaming?
I heard a man yelling.
You heard a man?
I didn't hear screams, but I did hear a yell. It was a very loud yell, like as if he was yelling at someone else or something else.
Okay.
And I heard a door slam, and then I heard some muffled yelling at that point, and a few more noises, and then it got quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Do you remember about what time it was that you were woken up?
I know exactly. It was 2:13 because I don't like being woken up in the mornings, very early in the morning. So I typically, the first response is to look at the clock. And I remember 2:13 a.m. exactly.
So from what you have stated, that 2:13 is when you heard the loud bump
2:13 is when I first woke up.
Okay.
This is interesting. Carly seems very certain of the time, stating that the argument between the two took place at 2:13 a.m. The 911 call came in at 3:41 a.m. Even if she was off by an hour and it was actually 3:13, there's still a long gap between when the incident began and when Anna made the 911 call. Reports from the crime scene indicated that a bar stool was moved toward the body, disturbing the blood on the carpet. This is just speculation, but could Anna have sat on this stool watching Stefan die? Perhaps she was contemplating what story she would tell the police before she called 911. The explanation remains a mystery, but it seems unlikely that Anna rushed to his aid as she claimed, and that she was unaware that he was deceased when she entered the interrogation room.
How long did this yelling or this noise go on for?
Only for a few minutes. It wasn't very long at all.
Okay. Few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes?
2 to 3.
Oh, 2 to 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then it got real quiet.
Yes, it got very quiet. It was like very quiet after that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A few minutes and then silence. At that point, had the atrocious act already been committed, or was it yet to come? If it took place later, one would think that Carly would hear such a violent struggle, especially as Anna depicted the scene. If it did take place while she was awake, why would she not have heard either of them scream? Carly mentioned that the muffled voice she heard was a man. Perhaps Stefan was, in fact, the one who went into the bathroom. Did Anna perhaps catch him in a surprise attack when he came out before he had time to scream? Anna is the only one who can tell for sure, and her side of the story is now told. The detectives depart, leaving Anna alone in the room for over a half hour, during which she remains mostly motionless, her hands resting in her lap, a somber look on her face. Based upon the evidence and blood spatter at the scene, officials suggested that the fatal argument had begun in the living room, not the hallway. Crime scene evidence showed that recently the sofa and the coffee table had both been moved, possibly during a struggle. While in this vicinity, they proposed that Anna had begun the assault, ripping chunks of hair from Stefan's head, which accounts for the tufts of hair on the couch and floor that were unsullied by blood.
The flexibility that Walden offered me was so important, and it was vital to my ability to...
From there, Stefan likely backpedaled to the hallway, where she may have then taken up the shoe from its place near the wall and begun to strike him with it. Injuries to Stefan's arms and hands were likely defensive wounds as he tried to fend her off. Taking several solid blows, officials deduced that Stefan fell and Anna followed him down, straddling him and continuing the assault. Evidence showed that the vast majority of injuries occurred while he was prone. By the time the detectives re-enter the room, Anna has fallen into a slump with her arms crossed tight under her chest, both hands hidden from view with her head down. This is a very passive and protective stance. It's likely at this point she has realized that she didn't win anyone over and can expect to be charged.
Crazy. She feels defeated.
When they leave, a crew arrives and has her remove the cover-up so they can take photographs. Anna is then asked to remove the pants as part of the evidence collection process. Notice that she seems to have no qualms about interacting with the bloody clothing now, which she previously claimed made her sick. She even checks all the pockets and neatly folds them before handing them over. Finally, an officer turns to cuff her, and they lead her away to be charged with Stefan's murder and arrested. As Anna's defense team prepared their self-defense case for trial, the media got wind of the unusual murder weapon and became intrigued. The case blew up and the press dubbed Anna the Stiletto Killer. The prosecution showed torrid images of the crime scene, indicating that Anna's actions went far beyond what would be necessary for self-defense. Her defense team put Anna on the stand, where she began a 6-hour testimony, rehashing the story she told investigators. Much like the interview itself, she constantly digressed, and her lawyer, who had beseeched her to keep her story short and simple, had to continually steer her back on topic. After less than 2 hours deliberation, the jury found Anna guilty of murder, and she was handed the maximum punishment, life in prison.
Dang.
She will not be eligible for parole until she is 75 years old.
She slipped up, man. That right there is the craziest suspect ever interrogated. Anna Trujillo. She was cuckoo, man, for Cocoa Puffs, man. She was bonkers, y'all. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below, man. Of course, you know, you can't evade it. Like, that's the thing, man. You know, nowadays, you know, the research, the technology we have, you know, certain procedures put in place to be able to identify criminals and, you know, connect the dots, so to speak. You ain't gonna really get away with too much nowadays, bruh. Let's keep it a buck. So, hey, be sure to check out my Explore With Us playlist. Keep recommending content. We'll catch you guys in the next video. We out.